Welcome back to the series of interviews with Group Chief Data Officers on the why, the how, and the what of data and AI for large companies. We are today in our third interview with our Group CDO of Accor. Welcome back, Jeff. So in our last interviews, we understood more about the why, right? Why is data and AI so critical for Accor, really showing this shift of the industry logic as well with GenAI. We looked into how you really prepare for the future, talking about the data product as a core element, about having certain touch points, about your physical stay, and then beyond, obviously, also the digital phases. Now, today I would like to focus more on looking on some reflections on the what you have done in the past for certain failures, or where you say, well, this has actually been quite a success story that you could share with us and that we can learn for also in other contexts. So perhaps starting with the one thing that not many people often talk about is the failures. I do think failures are actually quite important because you can learn a lot from that. Is there anything that you would say was kind of a failure that marked your journey or Akko's journey that you learned from, that we can perhaps also learn from you in that sense?
I pick a few of them. The first one I would say is really something quite recent. We started building our customer data platform, building on classical solution on the market. And the problem of most of the classical customer data platform is that they are built for companies with not so much first-party data, but more second or third-party data, which is not really the challenge of Accor. Accor has a lot of first-party data first. And so we stopped at one point and we decided to come back to the blank sheet and to again launch another RFP to find our right customer data platform software. And that's when the team proposed something quite innovative and very interesting, which is a composable CDP, which is not the classical architecture of a CDP where you have to move your data from your systems to a customer data platform and then adapt to the model of this customer data platform. But in fact, composable CDP come on top of your already built data warehouse or data enterprise data lake, adapt to your already built data, and then you just have to build the bridge between really a business vocabulary and the way the data is stored for us in Snowflake, for example. And this has really changed the game for us because we were after this move and this decision, we managed to be incredibly fast in building our customer data platform. In just a few months, we were able to get ready, propose to the internal users, train people, and so on. So in a few months, we had successfully solved our challenge. So relying on your team to do the best choice and think out of the box, what are really the need we had in terms of architecture and solution, and not just follow the market. Another example, I would say, is what we have built on travel assistant powered by generative AI. We were, I think, one of the earliest hotel player to launch at least a beta test of travel assistant using LLM, large language model, to book a trip or an hotel on our website. And we tested that on 2 countries, Australia and England, on some specific population. And the results were not very, very as good as we expected. And so we stopped again and we thought about the conclusion of this beta test. And one of the conclusions was that we did not think enough on the integration of these new tools in the customer journey. Because the key is not really the new features, but making sure that these new features are really well integrated in the customer journey and used when you need to. I just can give an example. If you know you go to Berlin next weekend, and you and your wife, you don't really need a travel assistant to book that, okay? Because you will be very, very fast with a classical filter approach. But if you don't know where you want to go, you want a sunny beach, you want a volcanic area, or you want a forest, or you want calm and so on, but you don't know where you want to go, you would be 3 hours from Paris, for example. That's where the generative AI could be very, very effective. And so making sure that you direct the customer, the guest, to the right tool at the right moment, I think it's something we had overlooked and that we are changing right now.
I think that's actually a very important point. We do see in many companies that GenAI bots explode a little bit everywhere, right? And everybody's trying to implement them. But then on the one side, how do you make sure that you stay really focused with what you want to do? And on the other side, that you really just use them where it's needed. Perhaps a personal story of mine that I just had this week. I was basically agreed with a client that I'm going to go and teach some executives in a location, and everything was right. And I sent them the invoice. And then I got an email back and saying, "Hey, hello, I'm the GenAI bot helping you with your renegotiation." And basically asking to go into negotiation and see if I want to lower my prices and change the conditions, which obviously makes a lot of sense if you are a certain type of supplier to a company. I think that's something that we really need to be cautious and of course, exploring where do those bots make sense and where is it perhaps not the right fit? And you might create a lot of frustration, right? In my case, it was spending 20 minutes renegotiating something that was already clear what we wanted to do. So actually, really, really interesting case. Is there on the other side some?
Yeah, sorry. On this, I would add to what you just said, which is more and more we need to think about the ROI behind generative AI, because it comes with a cost, not only a cost, a currency cost, but also a cost in terms of CO2 consumption. Okay. Mm-hmm. And so we need to make sure that we put these tools and when or where it brings a lot of value.
Agreed. I think there's a couple of really interesting cases there. I think Schneider Electric, for example, they have integrated a carbon return on investment when they have to pitch their GenAI solutions, because we all know it takes a lot of computing power, right? If you Google something, it takes like just 10% of what it does if you ask ChatGPT to get the same information. So I fully agree with you there's not only a cost monetary, but also for our society if we want to implement. So definitely a key aspect. Is there perhaps, besides learning from those failures, is there also a couple of things that you say, look, we tried something, it worked really well. That's something that probably other companies could also do that we can learn, where we'd say this is really a best practice to copy perhaps?
I would say that for a large enterprise like Accor, where you put data organization is a complex decision. I have seen many different approach. Some are more positioning data close to the IT. So it's great because then you have skilled people, and for the data team, it could be quite exciting because you build your expertise and so on. But the risk is that you could be disconnected from the business understanding, and I think it's critical for the data team to be close to the business, because you need to understand the data behind and the value behind your data. And the other hand, if you put the data team close to the business, the risk is that at the beginning you will have a great time to market because you will go very fast to bring value, but you will miss potentially the importance of industrialization, making sure you build on solid foundations, that you invest on the technology and so on, because at the end, data is still a lot an IT topic. And at Accor, I think we did something really great, which is having the data part of an organization where you have business, the critical business, digital business of Accor, plus the IT team. And we are just in between. And I think it brings a lot of potential to our organization. And that helped us a lot in this domain-oriented approach I discussed last time we had a chat together. Because our team is really dedicated to one business, understanding this business, but also very close to the IT and able to really take time to build solid foundation, invest on the technology and so on. So I think thinking well the place of the data organization and making sure it's not too far from business and not too far from IT is something very key, I think, to have a data success.
I think I fully agree with you. I see this very often happen that you find this middle layer, right? The ones who build the bridge between the business side and then the tech side, and may really focus, because then you have all those topics of how can you link IT investments to really value? How can you make sure that you build up the right foundations to then drive those elements? A parallel story is probably in AXA, which I find very interesting what they're doing. They have their what they call the data business partners. So it's a specific role that is there to just support how you go from the business side to the tech side and working in those areas. So pretty similar to actually what you're talking about. So I think very interesting. Perhaps last question for today. We know, and I find this fascinating, you don't come from a data and tech background, right? You have decided at some point to move towards really this data role. Could you give us some perhaps learnings for people who say, you know what, data and AI has become a really important topic, something perhaps that I would also like to explore, something that I would like to move towards? What could you give us as kind of key messages to help those type of people to guide the career development and so on?
Well, it's a very complex question because there are many ways to come to data. I think on my side, I think I benefit a lot from my career, starting really on the field, first as a developer, and doing a lot of different aspects of the development. Very at the very beginning, when I was in a startup, I was in charge of the server to be racked and making sure that the disk were not were working working correctly and so on. And then I moved to front development, then to back-end development. Then I went to architecture, and another point which is really a turning point in my career is, I think, where I decided to specialize in performance optimization. So making sure that software perform correctly, optimize the disk, the CPU, the memory, and so on, solving crash and so on. And that changed the way I was developing or thinking architecture, and it helps a lot when you go to data, because data is a lot about thinking smart to architecture. You could really easily find difficulties when you play with data, and especially data come with a lot of challenges in terms of performances. So making sure you don't go too fast when you want to invest on data, understanding what is behind and the complexity helps a lot. And I would say the second point is that if you want to go far working in the data world, you need to work on your business acumen. I don't know if it's perfect in English, but making sure you understand your business and you focus not on just making stuff which are exciting with the latest technology, but more adapt to your business problems, bringing value, and being close to your business needs. I think this is really the key of the modern data teams.
Yeah, I love it. It really brings back the story of being the bridge and combining the best of the two worlds, right? And shows this perfectly. And I think it's very interesting because you could very often there has been a movement in organization of saying, where does data actually happen in the organization? And we had it very often just under IT. And then it was seen perhaps it's just as a support function, and then it was moved to some more value building functions, but then should develop be driven by the business. So it's really finding this right balance between the business and then also the tech implications that is very interesting. So thank you very much, Jeff, for this session. I think it was very insightful. Thank you for lifting the curtain behind how Accor actually works. I hope it was for everybody also quite insightful to get some insights to a company that we all know, but don't have these types of insights. I think it was very, very interesting. So a big thank you to you, Jeff, for joining us.
Thanks a lot, Julian. It was really a pleasure to discuss this very interesting topics, and it was a pleasure for me. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much. So for the audience, obviously there's more interviews and insights that you can have on the CDO magazine.tech. We will have a couple of more interviews with group CDOs like Jeff, actually on quite similar questions, also to understand what are the type of differences that we see between the companies and contrasting those perspectives. So thank you very much and stay tuned. Thank you very much for joining.